Level up your LA Kings experience with the new Vivid Seats Elite Seats. All the on-ice Kings action with even more exclusive access. Enjoy great seats to the game along with premier dining inside the Lexus Club with all-you-can-eat food and non-alcoholic beverages. Plus, get a free Team LA Kings item and parking with your purchase. Score your Vivid Seats Elite Seats tickets today and earn rewards on each purchase from the only ticket company that rewards you for buying. Experience it live with Vivid Seats, the official partner of the LA Kings.
You're listening to an LA Kings podcast. For more episodes of this and every other Kings program, visit lakings.com/podcast.
You're listening to All the Kings Men, the official podcast of the LA Kings. Now, here's your host, Jesse Cohen.
Welcome back, Kings fans. I'm Jesse Cohen. This is All the Kings Men. Ken Holland was named general manager of the Kings last Wednesday and introduced to the press on Thursday. Now, I was receiving a chemotherapy infusion all day Thursday, so I wasn't able to attend the press conference or speak to Ken Holland directly, but he did do a little press tour over the following day or two, and I've brought you some of that here today so you can hear the answers to plenty of questions straight from his mouth. First up, we've got a one-on-one conversation with play-by-play announcer Josh Schaefer. Ken Holland also went on the Mason and Ireland show, which is on ESPN 710. That will follow the Josh Schaefer interview. And finally, we're bringing you the full audio of the press conference from Thursday when Ken Holland was introduced as the 10th general manager of the LA Kings. Now, all of this is available on YouTube if you want to see the video to go along with each of these interviews. But I just thought I'd collect them all here so that you can have a Monday episode. Hope you enjoy it. I'm feeling fine, by the way, and we will be proceeding with our original All the Kings Men content moving forward soon. We've got some evaluations of the past season. Obviously, when the draft gets closer, we'll start talking about that. And, the summer will continue on as it normally does, but there are going to be hiccup days like this where my schedule and reality schedule do not align. Anyway, hope you enjoy it, and we will be back with more traditional episodes soon.
Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Josh Schaefer, joined today by the new general manager of the Los Angeles Kings, Ken Holland. Ken, first of all, congratulations and welcome. What's this last week or so been like for you when you came to ultimately accept the new opportunity?
Well, it's been hectic. Obviously when LA got bounced out by Edmonton, and I'm surprised to see Rob Blake step down. Next day or two, I got a call from Luke. I came in, spent the day with Luke and Dan Beckerman, and then over the course of the next few days, talked back and forth, and ultimately came to the decision that this would be a great spot for me personally, and a great spot for us, my wife and I, personally and professionally. So excited to be here. LA Kings have a great brand, great history, and hopefully we can, over the next few years here, try to add to it.
What was that first conversation with Luc Robitaille like for you when you got the call?
Well, the good news is Luc was a player of mine back in 2001 when I signed him as an unrestricted free agent from LA, and he played with us 01-02 and 02-03. We won the Cup in 02. So I've had a relationship with Luc that goes back 20 years. And, we obviously had a player-GM relationship back then. So Luke asked me if I had the energy and the desire to come back. I told him I did. I'd been watching a lot of hockey. I missed being in the game. From a general manager perspective, Gary Bettman and Colin Campbell had allowed me to work for Hockey Ops, but was missing being in the saddle, I guess, per se. And but it had to fit for the LA Kings too. So I come down, like I said, and spent a day and a half with Dan and Luke, and here I am.
Now, you had mentioned in your introductory press conference that when you left Edmonton, it was 4 days before the draft. So how important is it for you to be here so quickly to get going? As every day that passes is a day closer to free agency, a day closer to the draft.
Well, the good news is when I got hired in 2019 at Edmonton, it was May the 7th. So this is within a week. So I understand the time frame. First order, I got to meet some people. I got to meet all the people. I got an opportunity to spend an hour and a half with Anze Kopitar yesterday, an hour and a half with Drew Doughty, Spent a couple of hours with Jim Hiller. Obviously spent lots of time with Luc Robitaille. Some time this morning with Assistant General Manager Nelson Emerson. And it's been a whirlwind. You're just going around and meeting people. And then I know I've got to reach out and talk to other general managers. I got to talk to agents. There's decisions that have got to be made. Most of these decisions come, near the middle to the end of June through early July. The draft decisions, the signing of your own players, restricted or unrestricted, if you got any trade conversations, free agency. So we do have some time, but we got to get at it.
I do want to ask you about that, but first, you had mentioned before that you had some conversations with some other clubs. So when it comes to LA, why the LA Kings and why now for you?
I think there's a whole lot of reasons. Great ownership, stable franchise, my relationship with Luc Robitaille, the team, the leadership on the team. Kopitar, Kempe, Doughty, some good young players coming through. I'm born and raised in British Columbia. I'm a Midwestern guy. Obviously spent a lot of years in Detroit. We have a son in Chicago. It's west. When we go on a road trip, my wife can jump on a plane. There's in the winter there's flights into Kelowna, BC, where we have our house. Flights to Calgary for her to go see our daughters and grandchildren. So the LA brand, the King brand. It's Los Angeles. It's one of the great sports cities in the world. And I don't think there was any. And then the team. It's a really good hockey team that we've got to try to make some moves to continue for it to be a good hockey team, and see if we can grow it and add it and build it. 22
years in Detroit, and of course the success stories. That speaks for itself. But you had said about your time in Detroit that when you had your first general manager opportunity with the Red Wings, you were inheriting a team that had just won the Stanley Cup with a real core. And now the Kings did not just win the Stanley Cup, but it seems like a rebuild is not necessary, maybe some very specific tinkering. So what is your assessment of the group overall, and what approach do you take to inheriting a group that has a good structure already and pushing them to the next level?
Well, first off, I would say that at the end of the regular season, I think the Kings finished 6th overall in points. And with the moves that Ron Blake made, Darcy Kemper's a finalist for the Vezina Trophy, and Gavrikov and Fogle, and I think what Kuzmenko did. I would say that when the playoffs started, this was a team that, had they have beaten Edmonton, lots of people wouldn't have been surprised. Right. So they didn't beat Edmonton, but you can't just judge everything on 4 games. They're up 2-0. So they had a 4-game losing streak. So I think it's a really good hockey team. But you got to go do it all. What we were able to do in Detroit and actually started in Edmonton, you got to do it year after year after year after year. You got to be in the playoffs. You got to build. You got to grow. So we got to make sure we do our work this summer. The most important thing over 82 games is to qualify. And then things have got to happen in there internally, growth of some kids, maybe a move or addition at the trade deadline. But ultimately, you got to win enough games over 82 games to be in the playoffs. And then you got to try all over again. And that's what the LA Kings have got to do. I've got to kind of oversee a nice summer. There's lots of pieces. There's a good core. There's some young people that can get better. See if we can do something to add to make it a little bit different, and then do it all over again.
I'm curious because, like we just said, you're inheriting a team that has its structure and has been built by somebody else and other people around the organization. But also, you want to come in and leave an imprint yourself. How do you find a balance between those two things?
Well, I just want to win, so I'll only make an imprint if I think it's going to be. I'm not just looking to do something so that somebody can say it's different. I mean, if we have the same team, we win the Stanley Cup, I'm thrilled. And it could be Rob Blake's team. I don't think it matters. I'm not looking to come in, and I'm looking to see over the course of time, with all these meetings and conversations and talking to GMs and talking to the LA, the pro scouts and the scouting department and the people that we've got there, and Jim Hiller, and I've talked to a few players, and then my experience, my assessment that somewhere down the road, and it's somewhere down the road 2 weeks or somewhere down the road a year, I don't know. I got to, when at the right time, when the right situation comes, that be prepared to move to try to make your team a little bit better. So I'm in the assessment mode, really. I know that they had a great year. The team knows how to check, which is really, really important. Got a goalie that's in the finalist for the Vezina Trophy. Those are lots of assets to work with. Now let me dig in here and go to work with these people and see what we think we need to do over the next 6 to 7 weeks.
I got to imagine after 22 years with the Red Wings and then going to Edmonton and kind of inheriting that group and now taking them to the next level, it had to have been very different for you after the 22 years in Detroit. And when you were there for the 5 years, what did you learn about how to take that group to the next level, and now what can you take into this opportunity with LA?
Well, I'm going to call it as building. Like the team that's in Edmonton, or that we finished with, because obviously there's some new players in Edmonton now this year that but the team that finished in Game 7 last year against Florida, from when I took over 5 years ago, other than maybe Connor, Leon, Nugent Hopkins, Darnell Nurse, trying to think, it was a completely new team. We had to, part of it was some players were already drafted. The growth of McLeod, the growth of Stu Skinner. We drafted Holloway, we drafted Broberg, and grew. And so I got to get to know the young players here. So, some of this solution might be in Ontario, or might be out and playing junior or in college, but they're 2 years away. But they're going to be a piece of the growth of this franchise, because you want to be in the playoffs every year, and ultimately you then want to win playoff rounds. And I think that we had a hard time getting over the hurdle in the early 90s in Detroit, and finally once you started to get over the hump, you started to understand as an organization, as a manager, as a coach, as a players, what you got to do to be successful. We went through the same process in Emmett, lost in the first round of Chicago, lost in the first round of Winnipeg, but you stuck with it, and you keep putting yourself back in those situations. That's what's got to happen here. It could have happened here 2 weeks ago. They were up 2-0 on Edmonton, and certainly looked like they were on their way to the second round. And 8 days, 4 games in 8 days, the whole narrative changes. So, you want to play back into that same opportunity next year, and part of it is the growth of some young players. It can't be that the manager is going to make some massive blockbuster trade or some free agent signing. It might happen, but that's not the only. Odds are it's not going to happen. It's got to be brick by brick. It's like we're building a house. It's brick by brick by brick by brick by brick. And when you look at the Edmonton Oilers of 2025 in June or 24 versus 19, it was almost a completely different team twice over, because we brought in some people and we changed the growth of some people. So it's going to be no different in LA. It's just going to be trying to make some decisions and the growth of some people internally.
So the salary cap's going up. The Kings should have space. Yeah. There are also some players who were here that are now unrestricted free agents. What's your approach to communicating with them, and then also playing the free agent market as well?
Well, first off, I want to talk to the people that are here, what they think about those players that are unrestricted free agents. The coach, Luc Robitaille, Nelson Emerson, and talk to and I've got my own thoughts. I've got to talk to the agent, and then see where it goes. In the meantime, do all our planning. You can't just have plan A. You got to have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, plan F, because there's 31 other teams out there, and things can kind of come at you, and you got to shift from this plan to that plan. So you just got to do all your work, do all your preparation. Over the next week to 10 days, I will probably expect to talk to probably the other 31 managers in the league about what they might be thinking, if anybody's looking to make any moves via trade. And, we obviously have the unrestricted free agent list. Everybody's got that. Some of those players are going to sign between now, but some of them are going to hit the market. So you just got to make sure you do all your work. And if an unrestricted free agent that we have interest signs, you wipe them off your list, and you got to keep moving on. You can't just shut down operations because that player's not there. You got to be able to go in a lot of different directions.
Well, Ken, we're excited to have you here. Congratulations. Welcome to LA, and good luck.
Thanks. Yeah, excited myself. Look forward to working with you.
All right, here we go. Joining us right now is Hockey Hall of Famer, brand new VP General Manager of the Los Angeles Kings, Ken Holland. Ken, thanks a lot for coming on, man. How are you?
Good. Nice to be with you guys.
Ken, congratulations, first of all, on getting the general manager gig with the Kings. You were in Edmonton. Edmonton has our number. That's no secret to you. They've beat us 4 years in a row. Why do you think the Kings have been unable to get past the Oilers for the past 4 years?
Well, that's what I'm going to try to find out. Obviously, I was on the other side there for a number of years, and then this year I was on the sidelines. So, I would say in 3 of the 4 series, this year Kings are up 2-0, and it ends up to be 4-2. My first year, the first round was 3-2 for LA coming home, and Edmonton won Game 6 and Game 7, and then the next year LA was up 2-1 in games and 3-0 after one period. So it's a fine line. Like, it's not like the other team is way better. So I'm looking forward to working with the people here, Jim Hiller and Nelson Emerson, Luc Robitaille, to kind of go through all that, and over the course of the season, see if we can make a few decisions that will allow us again to put ourselves back in that same position, be in the playoffs, but a little more ready this time around.
Ken, how would you describe the sort of the identity, the personality you want this team to have both on and off the ice?
Well, I've been fortunate, obviously, to work in Detroit for a lot of years, and then Edmonton. I guess, if you look at the moves that I made in Edmonton, I think you've got to be, you got to compete. The one I'm really impressed with, that you got to keep your goals against down. When Scotty Bowman came to Detroit in the mid-90s, that was, you got to know how to check and defend. And certainly this team was top 5 in the league in goals against. It didn't pan out in the playoffs, but I do think you got to know how to check and defend, kill penalties. Those are important things in the playoffs. Going to the blue paint, it's hard to score. Winning the one-on-one battles, blocking shots, and it's not like sometimes you got to go out and get different people. Sometimes your people just gotta gotta be in these situations and learn it. So we'll see. I'm just working here with everybody, and it's a really good team. They had a great year. They had a really disappointing last 4 games, and see what we can do here over the next 4, 5, 6 weeks till the middle of July to impact the team and try to make it a little bit different, a little bit better.
New Kings Vice President and General Manager Ken Holland on the line with us, Mason in Ireland, 710 ESPN. So you went into the Hall of Fame as a quote-unquote builder. Describe sort of the way you've built your career as a builder.
Well, I was a minor pro goaltender. I played 9 years of pro, mostly in the American Hockey League. In 1985, I became a scout with the Detroit Red Wings and worked with, Neil Smith was my boss. He ended up going to the Rangers as the GM in 1989. So we drafted, part of a scouting team that drafted Fedorov and Yzerman and Lidstrom and, well, not Yzerman, but Lidstrom, Fedorov, Kozlov, Keith Brim, Chris Osgood, a whole bunch of players that impacted the Red Wings. And I would say to you, in 1994 to 1997, when I moved to Detroit to become the assistant general manager. I worked on an everyday basis with Scotty Bowman and Jim Devellano, the senior vice president, who was one of the architects of the New York Islanders dynasty. That was going to Harvard for me. And listening to the way they operated and talked and how they wanted to build the team, the importance of guys that can check and winning draws. And we were able to, after some many disappointments in Detroit, got over the hump in 1997. And then 97, I became the general manager, and I was there in Detroit until 2019. So I would say I had lots of experience. I was with Detroit when they were really bad in the mid '80s, and we grew it. And I was there in 2016 and sort of charted the course for a rebuild. So I've seen rebuilds on one end and on the other end. I've been seen teams compete for the Stanley Cup and win the Stanley Cup, and obviously took those experiences to Edmonton, and feel proud that kind of we're able to grow Edmonton from I think they were 23rd and 26th overall before we got there, and my people and the last 3 years we went to the Final Four, the Final Eight, and last year lost Game 7 2-1 to Florida. So going to bring that same philosophy, same work ethic, same mentality to LA, and hope I can have a positive impact here to help this team grow. Thought Rob Blake did a great job in building this team, and a lot of good young players, and now it's. I have the responsibility to try to grow it even further.
Ken Holland, the new GM of the Kings, is our guest. Ken, we're friends with Luke Robitaille. He comes on with us all the time. He's like our favorite guy.
Yeah.
When we had Luke on a month ago, or right after he made the decision to part ways with Rob, Luke likes Jim Hiller, but he said that the new GM will ultimately determine whether or not Jim stays or goes. Is that something you've already decided, or is it yet to be determined, or how do you feel about the head coach in your first week on the job?
I've decided. Today at the press conference, I told I met with Jim yesterday. When I was in Detroit, Mike Babcock was the head coach and Jim Hiller was his assistant. So I know Jim going back 15, 18 years back, and I followed his career through the Islanders and through Toronto. I thought Jim did a great job last year. It's 105 points. They were top 5 in goals against. They had lots of different people pitch in with good years. So, he's a young coach, and I think the experience of this year is going to serve him going into next year. And I kind of think of myself as being a young manager in 97 and 98 and 99, and maybe making a decision or two that I might do differently today than I did back then. And so I think he's a really good young coach. He has lots of experience. The team had a great year. I'm sure he's going to learn a lot from this year positively, and whatever things he might do a little bit differently. So I'm looking forward to working with him. He's going to be the coach.
Last thing for you: has Luke gotten you a surfboard yet? Have you adapted to what's life going to be like for you here in Southern California?
Well, you know what? I've always come in on a plane, on a visiting team, on a bus. And, you go downtown to the JW Marriott, you play, and then you go back. And before that, it used to be we'd stay in Santa Monica at the Ritz. I mean, to be here the last 2 days, and I'm staying downtown Manhattan Beach. It's amazing what a beautiful part of the world this is. My wife's really excited. She's going to have a ton of company, grandkids. We've got 10 grandkids under 9. They're already excited to come watch Kings game, and they want to go over to Disneyland.
Cool.
So I'm excited to go to work, and my wife will be excited to have lots of friends and family here this winter.
Jim, Detroit and Edmonton, you probably don't own a lot of pairs of shorts. Do we need to get you some shorts now that you're living in Manhattan Beach?
I don't think I want to get into a pair of shorts. That's not a very good visual.
Well, we are excited that you're here, man, and bringing that recipe of Stanley Cup championships that you have been a part of over the years, and we're huge fans. And thanks a lot for coming on, and welcome to LA.
Thank you, guys. Anytime, and I'm anxious to get going and excited to go to work here.
All right,
congratulations, cool. Ken. Thanks, you.
Man.
Thanks, guys.
So without further ado, we'll start with Luke for opening remarks and throw to Ken.
Thanks, Sean. Last time we spoke, we talked about the direction of this organization and where we wanted to be and take the next step. And So since then, we've been talking to numerous people. I want to thank Mr. Aintreu's support and Nancy Aintreu, the entire Aintreu's family, obviously Dan Beckerman, who's here today. Their support behind the scenes for the health of this organization, where we're at, is one of the best in all of sports. And you go around, you start asking questions, and you find out that quickly. So we're very fortunate for that. Like what I talked about last time, is it was very important to get the right person to guide this franchise to where we want to be, which is not about beating one team, winning one round. It's about winning 4 rounds. And when Ken was available, and we had numerous talk, and we talk about the philosophy of the team and where this franchise wants to be, and our players and our coaching staff and the entire organization, it became clear to me that the best person was Ken. And the thing that he has, and I know he'll get on in, and you guys will get to know him, is he knows the path of what it takes to get to the championship. And that's a hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing to learn. And obviously his experience and what he's done over his career is very important. It's very important at this time for this franchise that we get to that next level. So for me, without further ado, I just want to say I want to welcome one of the winningest GM in NHL history, and we're glad to have you on board. We're we feel very fortunate. Thank you.
Thanks, Luke. First off, I'd like to thank you all for coming out this morning. I'd like to thank Mr. and Ms. Sandschutz and their family, Dan Beckerman and Luke, for believing in me that I'm the right man for the job. I'm incredibly excited today. My family's incredibly excited. My grandkids are really excited. I gotta tell you, they're looking forward to coming to LA and watching some King games and going to Disneyland. They're all under 9. I'd like to thank Gary Bettman and Colin Campbell. With this past year, they hired me to work with NHL hockey operations. It was a great experience to be in the video room and to work side by side with Coley and spend a lot of time with Gary Bettman, and for keeping me around the game. I watched a lot of games. And over the last week or 10 days, Luke reached out to me after Rob Blake made his decision. I also want to thank Rob Blake. I think he did a tremendous job as the general manager of the LA Kings in rebuilding the franchise. And certainly in 2016, I charted a course in Detroit for a rebuild, and it's tough, these long-term rebuilds. And when I look at the job that Blakey did in retooling, rebuilding, and the team had 105 points this year, tremendous regular season, and in my mind was a legitimate Stanley Cup contender before the playoffs started. It's a credit to Luke and all the people that have worked together to work so hard to build the team where it's at. So when Blakey stepped down, Luke reached out to me. I flew in last week. I spent the day with Luke and Dan, talked about the team, talked about my thoughts in building a team, my experiences. And then over the last few days, we've found a solution for me to join the team as the general manager of the LA Kings. I'm excited because it's a really good hockey team. I'm excited to be back in the saddle. I got a lot of energy. I had an opportunity this past winter to get my batteries rejuiced. I look forward to working with Jim Hiller going into next year. Spent 2 hours yesterday with Jim. Jim and I were together with the Detroit Red Wings back couple decades ago, but a while back when he was assistant coach to Mike Babcock, and I've followed his career with the Islanders and with Toronto. Thought Jim did a great job. The team checked. Goals against were down. Penalty killing was good. Team played hard. And again, I thought when the playoffs started that the Kings had a real good chance to go on a long playoff run. And unfortunately, we're ousted in a real tough series with the Edmonton Oilers. So that's basically it. I'm just really excited. My wife's really excited. I've been staying downtown at the Shade in Manhattan Beach. I can't believe what a beautiful area it is down there. You know, when you come in as the visiting manager and you're on the bus and you kind of just go downtown, you don't really know what the whole city's about. And in 2 days, I've had a real better feel for what this area is about. And the LA Kings have got a strong brand, led by great leadership, great ownership, Dan and Luke, and I'm excited to get into the saddle and get to work and see if we can't do what we did last year in the regular season and then go farther in the playoffs.
Thank you, Luke and Ken, for those remarks. We'll start with John and Jim here for the first two questions.
Hey, Ken, welcome to LA. Just what about the management structure underneath you? Last week, Luke was saying that Nelson Emerson was under contract and would stay. Glenn Murray. Any thoughts on bringing in an AGM or some other additional support under you?
Luke and I talked about that. First off, I would say to you, I've been in the league. I was a manager for 27 years. I know how hard it is to win and how hard it is to rebuild. And I think the people here have done a marvelous job. So going to keep all the people. Look forward to working with them. Luke said if I had a person or two I might want to bring in, might look at doing that. Right now, we're going to sit and talk here over the next couple of days, but I look forward to working with Nelson and Glenn Murray and Jim Hiller and all the people that have been here. Again, I think they've done a marvelous job, and I'm hoping to come in and add a little something to it, maybe a little different idea. And I've kind of been through this in 2019 when I went to Edmonton. I know what's got to be done. I got to meet the people, talk to the coach. I know I got amateur meetings, pro meetings. I'm going to go to the combine. I got to get on the phone here next week, talk to agents. Some players are restricted, some players are unrestricted in this team. I want to talk to other general managers to see what they're thinking as we head into the time when you do trades at the NHL entry draft, free agency. And then the early in July is the development camp. So it's a big 6 weeks for me, for the organization. Fortunately, I did it, wasn't, in 2019 I did it in Edmonton. So I know what's got to be done, and I'm looking forward to getting going.
Jim Hill, KKL 9 News. First of all, congratulations and welcome. I've said many times that this is the sports capital of the world. And with that being said, how much more pressure does that add to you and this organization in order to succeed because of the dollar that's out there?
Well, I think when you're in pro sports, I was a manager in Detroit for 22 years, and that was pressure. And then I went to Edmonton for 5 years, and that was pressure. And I'm jumping back into the pressure cooker here. So I understand that this is a marketplace that's, Luke and I have talked, it's really competitive. You think about the professional basketball, professional baseball teams, and all the competition for the entertainment dollar. So it's important that we win, compete. What's winning? Define winning. Well, first off, you got to make the playoffs, and then when you make the playoffs, you want to go on playoff runs. And they've made the playoffs here, and unfortunately, the last 4 years, got knocked out by Edmonton. Got to find a way to make the team a little bit different, a little bit better. I think the experiences that the players have gone through here will benefit us down the road. And some of the young players here that are just growing into important pieces. But certainly, I understand that we need to compete. We got to be a playoff team, and ultimately, you want to go on a playoff run because we're in a very, very, very competitive marketplace. One of the great sports cities in all the world.
Ken, you're one of a handful of GMs that won 3 cups, but because your last cup was 2008, some of your critics say you've kind of lost your touch with respect to building a championship team. So how would you answer those critics?
Well, I would say to you that, on top of that, we went to Game 7 and lost 2-1 in 2009 to Pittsburgh. On top of that, we went to Game 7 and lost 2-1 last year to Florida. In the last 3 years in Edmonton, we went to the Final Four and lost to Colorado, who won the Cup. Then 2 years ago, we lost in the second round to Vegas, and they won the Cup, and last year we went to Game 7. So certainly you want to win the Cup. That's the ultimate goal, but you got to be there time after time after time after time, and then one day you hope to push through.
Thank you, Eric Stevens.
Hey, Ken. Obviously, Jim and his staff's presence being here is probably notable. Jumping off of what you said earlier, does that mean that Jim Hiller will be your coach going forward?
I can help you. Just so everyone knows, Eric was late. Just want to make sure we're. you can repeat what you said earlier. Just want to make sure we all knew.
Yeah, Jim's going to be the coach. Again, I think he did a. I would say to you that I became a general manager in 1997 in Detroit. I was the assistant manager when we won the Cup in '97, and I was the GM when we won the Cup in '98. And as I look back and analyze my own personal career, probably made 2 or 3 or 4 decisions that might be a mulligan, or I might do something a little bit different. And I think that we're all the same. And I think that Jim Hillard did a fabulous job in leading the team to 105 points. They were good defensively. They were good in special teams. The team played hard. Again, I thought 3 weeks ago that this was a team that had the potential, the ability to go on a long playoff run, and he'll be a better coach next year for the experience he went through this year. And I think each year that goes by, I'm a better manager than I was the year before, because I think when you coach and when you manage and you play, experience is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. So, again, I think Jim did a great job. Look forward to working with him and him and his staff. Because he did a great job.
And to follow up, I've seen a quote from you in the past about maybe not being cut out for a stress-free experience.
Yeah.
But someone with your resume could easily, just call today and have a pretty darn good resume. So maybe can you expand on not being wired for a stress-free existence and wanting to be in the fire?
Well, I would say to you that, after Game 7 last year when we lost in Florida on a Monday night, I met with Jeff Jackson and we kind of agreed we were going to go our separate ways. And that weekend was the NHL draft, and I missed being there. It's the first draft I'd missed in about 40-something years. And, I was I wasn't sure where I was going. Was I going to miss it? And I would say to you, over the course of the winter, I'm living in British Columbia. Every night at 4 o'clock, the TV's on. I'm watching hockey every night from 4 o'clock to 10:30, and my wife's in the bedroom watching a movie, or she's reading a book, and I'm still in hockey. And fortunate again, like to Gary and to Gary Bettman and Bill Daly, Colin Campbell to have me part of it. So, I went to the Board of Governors meetings, the managers meetings. Long-winded. I missed it, and Cindy was asking me in February and March, if the phone rings, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I know if an opportunity comes, I'd love to get back in, because you don't know if the phone's going to ring. And when Luke called, I talked to a few teams here over the last 3 weeks. I just thought this was a great fit for me personally and professionally. I missed being under fire.
Russell? Welcome to Los Angeles. You've been on the other side of this. What the Kings have gone through the last 4 years, obviously not this past year, but the 3 years before. Luke talked about this team needing a killer instinct to take them over the hump. What have you seen being on the other side from this team, maybe possibly, or adding in terms of getting them there?
I told this to Luke and to Jim. When I look at those 3 years that I was the manager of Edmonton, we were playing LA. The first year we were down 3-2 coming out here. Darnell Nurse was suspended. And we found a way to win a big Game 6 and won 1-0 in Game 7. So it was a series that could have went either way. And then the next year, we were down 2-1 and 3-0 after the first period. Had to do a goalie switch. Stu Skinner went out and Jack Campbell went in and found a way to win in overtime and won that in 6 games. That series could have went either way. I thought the third year that I was there, we won in 5 and we probably were a little bit better that series. But these, when I reflect back on the growth of the Detroit Red Wings when I was there, and then I reflect back on the building of the Edmonton Oilers and where they are today for the Final Four 2 straight years in a row, you just got to stick with it. You got to and find a way to win a series and and every time you can get a little more confidence from accomplishing something, it builds you going forward. So I think you just got to stick with it. There are no magic wands or the tricks. It's you just got to stick. You got to believe in a plan. We're trying to make a few tweaks to the roster. Part of this has got to be internal growth. Some of the players that are here that are 22, 21, 22, 23, we need them to take a step. Can't all be about free agency or this big mega trade. It's a little bit here, it's a little bit there, it's a little bit here, it's a little bit there, and then like I said, I watched it in Detroit, and I watched it in Edmonton, and certainly that's what we hope to accomplish here.
You touched on this, but was there, something that you learned about yourself during this time away? Like, I don't know if you thought you could leave the game entirely, but the fact that you're glued to your TV from 4 to 10, was there something that you learned that, I love this game and I have to come back at some point?
Yeah, I think that's what the game is very important to me. I love building, and I always say that in Ward Fogel's here, he was with us in Edmonton, the players, I work with the coach, and the players understand the coach is their boss, and then I'm the manager's boss, and then I report to Luke and to Dan and to Mr. and Miss Sanchut. So we've all got there's a channel, and we've got our jobs, and you're building. You're trying to build something, and I enjoy trying to build an organization or build up a young player. And I feel good about the young players that are in the National Hockey League today that I shook their hand at the draft table. And you went through that whole process to grow them into National Hockey League players, and you're trying to grow and build a team. And that's, I guess, that's been the thing that I've enjoyed the most when I got into this business in the 90s. Nothing's changed today, and I think that's been what's been missing for me. I enjoyed lots about being around the game. I did enjoy some time to have, stress-free year, but I'm excited about being back in the saddle, back in the fire, and working with people to try to make everything just a little bit better on a daily basis.
A couple things. Can you confirm how long your contract is?
Multi-year.
If you...
That's confirming.
Okay, it's more than one. If you play in free agency and you go after top-tier players, you're going to have to offer a contract probably close to $90 million to get a player like that. Do you have the authorization from ownership to sign a deal like that this summer?
Yes. And I would, yes, the absolute is yes. We talked about that. We want to play. We want to be in the LA Kings want to be in the big boy league. They're prepared to go to the cap. Now, you're not just going to spend it. And I think I'd watched Luke's press conference, but if we think there's a player out there that it's going to cost a lot of money and a lot of term, the answer is yes. I'll work with Luke. I'll work with Dan, and obviously ownership. But this is an organization that is committed. Certainly, that's why I'm here. In my mind, going through all this, that I know to win, you got to have some things, and that's why I'm here. The ownership's committed. Dan and Luke are committed. The people that are here, the work that's been done, the passion for I used to love coming out here as a visiting team and playing in. It's Los Angeles, it's LA, it's an entertainment world, and then again to come in here and spend some time in Manhattan Beach and see these, what a beautiful world that is. I'm excited. So the answer is absolutely yes.
Welcome to Los Angeles and the
Thanks.
Kings, Ken. When you look at this team from the outside, what do you view as the strengths of this team and maybe the needs or challenges moving forward to get to the next step?
Well, first off, good teams are good in goal. Darcy Kemper had a fabulous year. He's a finalist for the, he won the Stanley Cup and helped in Colorado. He's a finalist for the Vezina Trophy. He had a great year, and he was a big part of the year that they had. I thought that they were 4 lines deep. They relied on a lot of people to pitch in. Knew how to check. I would say to you, Daryl, that when I watched Scotty Bowman come into Detroit in 1994, and we had great regular seasons and the same disappointing playoffs. His message was check. You got to know how to check, and we eventually, this team knows how to check. That's on great job by Jim Hiller and the players. The goals are against it. You can't go on long playoff runs winning 6-5, but you got to do it sometimes. So I think that it's 4 lines deep. The team knows how to check. Got one of the elite goaltenders. They've got some really good young players that I think that are on the upcome and are only going to grow and get better. It's Los Angeles. I think that, at the right time, to your question, when we want to go out and try to recruit free agents, it's Los Angeles. It's a great place to live. It's a great place to play. It's one of the entertainment capitals of the world. Excuse me. So I think there's so many different things, different positives. That's why I'm here personally.
Welcome, Ken. The term that I keep thinking of is built for the playoffs. So what is your description of what that means and where this team is right now? Because that's been the difference of the last 3-4 years.
Built for the playoffs, lots of blue paint, lots of winning, lots of one-on-one battles, blocking shots, knowing these games are decided by a fine line. I think there was a game last night, 6-1, but these games are, it was 1-0 overtime last night for Edmonton. So, you think about all these playoff games, they're fine line leagues. So those are the ingredients. But I also think it's important they've been in these playoffs 4 years in a row, and unfortunately haven't found a way to get to beat Edmonton. But 3 of the 4 series were up for grabs. This year they're up 2-0, and Edmonton won. And then I talked about my first 2 years. So it's sticking with it. It's making some tweaks as the manager, as the coach, maybe some tweaks to the system. The manager making some changes. The growth of some young players, and then you got to blocking shots, winning one-on-one battles, getting to the paint, battling and scratching. You saw the winning goal in overtime last night that Kapanen scored, throwing the puck to the net, and there's a scramble, and you whack it in. That's playoff hockey, and so this team did a lot of that all year, and got to try to have a great regular season, get yourself back in the same position again this time next year, and with some moves, with some growth, with some adjustments, believe that we're better prepared to win the round or 2 or 3 or 4.
Jonathan? Yeah. Ken, you said built for the playoffs, and this team was, and 4 lines deep was the word that you used, and they were 4 lines deep regular season, but in the middle part of the series with Edmonton, they went to 3 essentially and 4.5 D. So, is that some organizational depth issues that you need to address?
Those are conversations. Jim and I met yesterday for 2 hours. I talked to Nelson Emerson this morning for 2 hours. I talked to Anzi yesterday for an hour. I tell you, again, as a manager, okay, when the year's over, whether I'm in Detroit and whether I'm in Edmonton, the season's over. Whether you miss the playoffs, you make the playoffs, lose in the first round, or you go to Game 7 last year, you've got this quick planning. And when you go to Game 7 against last year and it ends on a Monday, you got 4 days. Well, when you miss the playoffs, you got 6-7 weeks. So basically, I got to talk to a lot of people. I want to talk to, when I was the manager, and folks would know every year, it's exit meetings. You talk to the players, the younger players. I tell them what I think they need to do in the off season to be better prepared to come in next year. It's an opportunity for the older players to give me information. They're sitting in the locker room, what they think needs to do. Then I talk to the coach. I talk to my pro scouts. I talk to my bosses. And you gather information. You talk to general managers and what might be available, and you start to formulate this plan that you want to. Some of these plans are, this summer plan. Some of these plans are this summer and maybe next summer with cap space, with young players, and who's going to make it, who's on the horizon, who needs a couple of years, and then you start to formulate this plan, and that's what I'm proud of what we accomplished my time there in Edmonton. In 2019, I did exactly the same thing. Certainly, they had two young great players in McDavid and Draisaitl, but you had to build a team. Like this is a team sport, massive advantage, and I'd like to think that over the 5 years we built, that we were able to build a hockey team. And unfortunately, I wish we'd have won one more game, but we didn't. So I'm back here. I'm in LA. I'm going to use that same mentality that we did in Detroit, that I did in Edmonton. We started got to peck away a day at a time, a meeting at a time, a move at a time, to try to build this team up to where, obviously we want to win some playoff series, but I don't want to screw it up. Like, they had a good year. This is a good team, so you just can't come in and you're going to send people. They had 105 points. This is a good hockey team that I thought 3 weeks ago, when I looked around the league, that was one of the teams that I thought they could go to the Final Four and beyond, and they didn't. And then everybody wants to evaluate based upon 6 games. Well, there was 82 out there that count too, and I understand these 6 are more important than the 82. But if you don't do something in the 82, you don't even get to these 6. You got to be a playoff team, and you got to win games, and you got to put points on the board. It's a hard league to make the playoffs. These players know it. They live it every day. They're going to start here now in the next week or so, and they're going to the gym every day. And there's 32 teams that are doing that every day, all summer long. And then it's training camp, and it's competitive. And teams that are building have got young players, and they're starting to come, and they're starting to get better. So we want to win the Stanley Cup. That's the ultimate goal. But it starts with pieces, with building blocks. And lots of building blocks are in place here with the work that Jim and his staff have done, these players have done. And I'm hoping to come to add to it, build upon it, and at the right time make, a couple of trades. And, you can just look at what happened at Edmonton, the couple of trades and the free agent signings. And you peck away and move at a time, and you got to build it. But there's lots of great positives to build around here. And it's a really good hockey team that had a great year in a tough league, and up 2-0. Really, I see 6 games. It's 4 games, right? I mean, the first 2, it looked like things were going pretty good. So it's 4 games.
Eric?
I have one for Luke. I know you said in your statement that you guys released on Kenny's hire here. I'm curious, what made you target Kenny in the first place, and what made him a separator compared to, say, others that you were looking at for this position?
His experience and the belief in what he's talking about right now, and building a team and building him piece by piece, and knowing back and what he's done throughout his history with culture and the way he communicates with people, and also when you start kind of checking boxes, pretty much checked all the boxes for our organization.
Ken, building on what you said just a moment ago in your talks with Kopitar and any of the other players, what were they sharing with you in terms of what the team needs to get to the next level?
I mean, I'm not sure I want to share that. I think that's got to be private. But I would say this to you. I think that, and I just met with 2 yesterday. It was, like I said, I flew in here and got in here late. I'm not even sure what day it is, to tell you the honest truth, but I think it's a Thursday. I got in here really late 2 nights ago, and then yesterday morning it was Anzi and Luke, and a tour, and then Drew Doughty and Coach Hiller and this morning Nelson Emerson. So I would say to you, in talking to Drew and Anzi, a missed opportunity. When you have 105 points and you're up 2-0 in a playoff series, you feel like it's a missed opportunity. But that's most of those 8 teams that lost in the first round feel the same way, missed opportunities. One team was up in Game 7 by 2 goals with a minute and a half to go, and Winnipeg moves on, and St. Louis is out. So, but I think what those missed opportunities mean to me is the gap isn't this far. You know, the gap between a lot of teams is this much. It's not like you got to do massive. Like it's like I get back to it's a little bit of growth. I got to make a move or two. Free agent signing, got to make some decisions. Talk to the coach, little, and then the experience of being there. And you just got to stick with it. You got to stick with it. Again, you know, when I was in Detroit in those early years, we were massively disappointing and eventually won 3 cups in a few years. And then we got to Edmonton. The first year we lost in a funny play-in series in August, the best of 5 against Chicago, and you know, and then the next year we played Winnipeg and got swept out in that Canadian division, and you know, you were just, and then the next year we got to the Final Four, and we got to do this. Starts the same thing here. We just, but it's further along. You know what I mean? Like they had 105 points. They're checking good. This is a real good, legitimate NHL team. Got to keep it that way, and then see over as we go forward what I can do to pitch in to make them better, different, addition, coach, and each individual player has that responsibility.
Andrew?
Yeah, hi, Ken. Welcome and thanks for joining us. You alluded to Edmonton kind of preparing you for this job, obviously the most recent one, all in the cap era. But I mean, what would you consider a core similarity between the Edmonton and LA situations, and what would you consider the biggest difference, whether it's roster construction or market or whatever it may be?
Well, I mean, obviously I worked for a long time in the States, in Detroit, and then I went to Canada. You know, this is new. I'm only here a couple of days. I would say that in a cap world, all 32 teams believe they can win. That's the beauty of the cap world. So, you know, when you got the decisions, you got to make lots of good decisions, but you got to make some of the decisions that don't work out. You can't make too many bad decisions. Like you can't just keep making good decisions. You're going to make some decisions that don't work out the way you want. You just hope that they're not paralyzing. And I would say to you that, you know, being a sports fan and I love baseball and, you know, follow basketball and follow the NFL. This is one of the great sports cities in all the world. It's competitive. Like I said, I talked to Dan and Luke about it. I understand it's important that we're competitive, we're entertaining. Part of being competitive is you want to win some playoff rounds, and I'm excited to kind of spend more time here and get to know you all. And you know, when I was in Edmonton and when I was in Detroit, I mean, I'm in the press room lots. I'm trying to available. So if you've got any questions, you know, for me, I'm there to answer them. But I think that, you know, each in Detroit, Edmonton, and now LA, they're all similar but all unique. Some a little bit different. And as I go along, I'll figure all that out. But that's an experience I think that Luke talked about, and won't take me long. But I understand we're in a competitive business, and we have to succeed.